this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Well, tropical storm Chantal moved away from the Virgin Islands with little to no impact on the territory. Vitima said the weather system made its closest approach to the territory at about 11 p.m. when the center passed approximately 135 miles to the southwest of St. Croix as a strong tropical storm with sustained winds of 65 miles per hour near the center. Tropical storm force winds extended out up to 90 miles. There were no reports of heavy rains or winds associated with Chantal. By 2 a.m., the tropical storm was 261 miles northwest of the territory. The Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency's Director, Elton Lewis, thanked the Vitima staff, the territory's emergency support function coordinators, and federal partners who supported the emergency response operations effort for Tropical Storm Chantal. The U.S. Coast Guard lifted all port restrictions imposed. Inter-island ferry transportation remained uninterrupted. The VI Port Authority said flights to the territory were unchanged. Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas was in port as scheduled. More on the weather later on in the newscast. As we reported on Tuesday's newscast, St. Croix police are investigating a double homicide that left a woman and her son dead in a private residence in Estate Glynn. News2's Shaniqua Robinson has more.
On Tuesday, shortly after 2 p.m., emergency dispatchers received a call reporting shots fired in the Estate Glynn area. A few minutes later, another call confirmed that 2 individuals had been found in the home.
According to St. Croix Chief of Police James Paris, a mother and her minor son were fatally shot. Paris said the mother is in her mid-20s and the child is between 8 and 12 years old.
Dozens of police officers and emergency medical technicians responded to the scene at the house. Police immediately blocked off the roadway at the residence, prohibiting access to anyone other than police and medical and social services personnel.
Detectives are searching for suspects and gathering evidence that will hopefully shed light on why these shootings occurred.
Tuesday's double homicide marked the territory's 17th and 18th homicides of the year and is the 8th and 9th reporting on St. Croix.
Detectives are looking for possible suspects in the case, and police are asking the community to come forward with any information they may have.
Information can be relayed to detectives by calling 712-6037, Crime Stoppers USVI at 1-800-222-8477 or 911. Shaniqua Robinson, News 2.
Now, police have just revealed the identity of the slain mother and son as 28-year-old Kenya Lawrence and 7-year-old Devontae Charles. The detectives are continuing the investigation. Again, if you have any information about this homicide, contact them as soon as possible. Well, police still need help to find out what happened to a 17-year-old teen who was found dead in the swimming pool of an abandoned home. According to police, Rosalie Figueroa went missing on July 3rd and was found just after 4 p.m. on July 4th on the north side of St. Croix. Police have released a picture of the teen to try to figure out where she may have been before she disappeared. Figueroa left her Lagoon Complex home around noon and never returned. Family members reported her missing around 11 p.m. Figueroa was a recent junior at the St. Croix Educational Complex. In other news, the Senate Finance Committee voted Tuesday to advance a measure to spend $300,000 to purchase new police radios. According to testifiers outside the police department, the territory suffers from dead spots because of gaps in the coverage of communications towers, and buying new radios will not correct the problems of dropped calls from officers in the field to the emergency call center at the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency. It is not clear whether the purchase, if enacted, will better the communications for police officers on patrol. Well, 2 men have been arrested for vehicle theft on St. John after they were seen driving a vehicle that was reported stolen. 21-year-old Angel Filbert of Estate Bordeaux and 20-year-old William Dishmay of Altona were the occupants of the vehicle reportedly taken from a rental company parking lot sometime during the early morning hours of July 7th. Police located the vehicle being operated in the Cruz Bay area about 10:30 a.m. The 2 were arrested and placed on a bail of $10,000 each and remanded to the Bureau of Corrections. Well, the election system has new leadership in place. The Joint Board of Elections voted Tuesday to select retired Colonel Caroline Fawkes as the next Supervisor of Elections. News 2's Erica Parsons has that story.
11 Joint Elections Board members voted unanimously to select retired Colonel Caroline Fawkes as the new Supervisor of Elections. The vote was carried out by secret ballot during a special meeting Tuesday on St. Thomas.
It was a meeting to work on the recommendation of the select committee that Mr. Raymond Williams chaired.
During the St. Croix District's meeting Wednesday, Board Chair Delbert Bryan said the board postponed voting for the deputy supervisor positions to be filled.
Title 18, subsection 4 tells us that the supervisor of election shall have recommending authority to the board before they select the deputy supervisors.
The election system has been operating without leadership for several months. Former election supervisor John Abramson Jr. was on leave since January until his retirement at the end of May. In March, both district deputy supervisors resigned. A formal date of employment has not yet been set for Ms. Fawkes. An exit NOPA would have to be processed first for former supervisor John Abramson Jr. and then a subsequent NOPA process to put Fawkes into the position. Bryan recommended the same salary of $85,000 that the former supervisor received, and the joint board approved it. Bryan, who nominated Fawkes since March, puts his complete faith in her.
I have been publicly telling them all along to put Ms. Caroline Fawkes in the position because of her capability and her commitment and a non-political partisan person in this activity. And I'm sure she'll do her job accordingly. If she could have come to the rank that she was in the military, to have some respect and accomplishment, I expect the same from Ms. Adam, a young Virgin Island, to do commitment to the people of the Virgin Islands.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
Elections officials are scheduled to appear before the Senate Finance Committee later this month. The St. Croix Board voted to prepare their budget testimony at a meeting to be held on Monday. Delegate to Congress Donna Christensen's legislation to require the Department of Interior to develop action plans to help the territories gain access to affordable, reliable energy passed the House Subcommittee on Energy and Power on Wednesday. H.R. 83 is expected to go to the Committee on Energy and Commerce for markup next week. Congresswoman Christensen said that the measure will help our nation's insular areas become less reliant on foreign imports and address our long-standing energy challenges, which have become increasingly complicated by price shocks and instability in the oil markets over the past few years. H.R. 83 requires that the energy action plans identify and offer remedies to the immediate, near-term, long-term, and environmental needs, along with recommendations on how to improve the performance of energy infrastructure, overall energy efficiency, and a schedule for implementation of those recommendations. Also, the delegate to Congress said today that 2 Virgin Islands community health centers were among the 1,519 across the country to receive grants from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to enroll uninsured Americans in new health center coverage options made available by the Affordable Care Act. HHS Secretary Sebelius awarded $150 million in grant awards to health centers across the states and territories today. The Frederick Said Center on St. Croix was awarded $79,000, and the East End Center on St. Thomas was awarded $80,000, which are to be used to hire additional outreach and eligibility assistance workers to assist uninsured Virgin Islanders in obtaining coverage. The new funds are expected to be used to hire 4 additional workers. Well, House Republicans are trying to come up with their own path forward on immigration. The main sticking point is whether to give legal status to some 11 million undocumented residents. Last year, President Obama provided a pathway for young people who came to the U.S. as children. Now he and others are pressing Congress for comprehensive legislation. Danielle Nottingham has more from Capitol Hill.
For the land. Rain didn't stop hundreds of immigrants from gathering outside the Capitol to tell lawmakers it's time to pass sweeping reform. 22-year-old Raymond Jose came to the U.S. when he was 9. He can stay thanks to an Obama administration program, but he fears his parents could be sent back to the Philippines at any time.
No family should have to worry about when the last time they're going to see each other.
House Republicans met Wednesday to figure out a way forward after the Senate passed comprehensive reform. The GOP is united behind tougher border security provisions, but not a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants already in the U.S.
If you do that, then you have forever destroyed the rule of law, at least with regard to immigration, for all time.
The young people
people out here want Republican lawmakers to know change needs to happen now. This is about their lives and their families.
It's not about border security and enforcement, it's about families, it's about real people, and they keep forgetting that.
Several influential Republicans do support a pathway to citizenship, including former President George W. Bush.
The laws governing the immigration system aren't working. The system is broken.
The White House is trying to keep up the pressure on House Republicans, making the case that fixing the broken immigration system will be good for the economy. Danielle Nottingham, News 2.
And keeping our eye on the economy, a judge has ruled that Apple played a central role when the companies teamed up against Amazon to raise the price of some bestsellers to $12.99 or $14.99. Amazon had been selling the ebooks for $9.99. The 5 publishers settled out of court, but Apple was the only company to go to trial. The iPhone maker is expected to appeal today's ruling. This is the New York Stock Exchange with Scotiabank's Stock Market Watch. The Dow down 8, NASDAQ up 16. Coming up on News 2, details on Boxing in Paradise. That's coming up. Tune in to News 2 Sports. Plus, they came, they cooked, they conquered. And now all the funds raised from the King of the Wing is presented to a foster home. Details. $72,000 was raised at the 4th annual King of the Wing competition that was held on June 15th at Magens Bay. Teams showed off some cooking skills to see who would capture that crown. That check was presented to the Nana Baby Children's Home on Wednesday.
Presented a check of $72,825.43 to the Nana Baby Home, and that was a part of the King of the Wing event. So we got the community to come out and support. We also had some stateside investment banks that came down for the event, and they were involved and they liked it, and so they were able to also donate, which got us over the top. Last year we donated $50,000, and I didn't think we could have been able to match last year, knowing the economy. We were able to do not just last year, but 20,000 and change more.
It's a blessing, it's a joy, it's such a comfortable feeling to know that people care so much. And I just want to be thankful to everyone, especially the organizers and the contributors and everyone in the community, because they've shown love, they've shown concern constantly, and I just want to tell them thank you.
Now, the Nana Baby Children's Home is a home for orphan children of the U.S. Virgin Islands between the ages of infancy to 12 years old. Well, the defense has rested its case in the George Zimmerman murder trial after the defendant decided not to testify on his own behalf. Susan McGinnis is at the courthouse in Sanford, Florida.
Consistent with someone doing this.
Defense attorney Mark O'Mara used a mannequin to drive home his client's story. George Zimmerman claims Trayvon Martin repeatedly bashed his head into a cement sidewalk, forcing him to shoot the 17-year-old in self-defense.
The injuries, the 2 lacerations, could that have come from cement? If somebody was resisting me pushing down like this.
I believe so.
Self-defense expert Dennis Root told the defense Zimmerman was no match for the younger, stronger Martin in a fight. But during cross-examination, prosecutor John Guy used the same mannequin to suggest the teenager was not the aggressor.
If Trayvon Martin had been backing up and the defendant raised his gun and shot at 90 degrees.
Zimmerman is charged with second-degree murder. If the prosecution doesn't believe it will get a second-degree murder conviction, it can ask that the jury consider manslaughter or other charges.
If you believe that George Zimmerman was walking around with that gun unholstered, that would be aggravated assault with a firearm, of which he could be receiving a minimum sentence of 25 years in prison.
The jury will be able to see this animation made for the defense during closing arguments, showing Zimmerman's version of what happened. The judge asked Zimmerman if he planned to testify on his own behalf, sparking several objections from his attorney.
To testify.
Your objection is overruled. And what is your decision, sir?
After consulting with counsel, not to testify, Your Honor.
The defense rested its case. Closing arguments could begin on Thursday. Susan McGinnis, CBS News, Sanford, Florida.
In entertainment news, fans are excited. Kenya has been featured on Tempo, performed on the same stage as Morgan Heritage, Desiree, and Rock City. She is open for artists such as Wyclef Jean and performed with India Arie. And what's new with the St. Croix native, singer and songwriter? The talented musician stopped in to give us an update.
As for me, I've been on the mommy tip for a little bit. Gave birth to a beautiful baby girl and boy, Sammy and Samara. And right now, I'm jumping back on the music tip. So finding balance between the two is a bit hectic, but we're making it work. And today I'm actually here because we're about to release my brand new single, You Are My World. We're releasing the video and the song at the same time. It's all gonna be available to the public as of July 11th of 2013. The song is basically a song for lovers, anybody that's in love. Not necessarily a boyfriend and girlfriend thing. It could be a family member that you just love dearly. You could dedicate this song to your mom. I dedicate it to my children, and the love of my life, of course. The lyrics to You Are My World was written by myself and produced by Renan Harrigan. The video was shot by Digitat Films. Look forward to seeing a lot from me in the near future.
We look forward to that as well. Kenya, thanks for stopping by. Stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.